Take a look at my giant piece of wood. Anyway, hello and welcome back to Amped RC. So today is a bit of a different one. So as you can see here, we've got a massive sheet of 12mm plywood. This is 8x4 or 2440 by 1220, depending on whether you work in imperial or metric. I use both because I'm British, we've been brought up on both. So, because this is, Mega Micro May, I keep forgetting the terms I've come up with for that. For these little cars, these drift and race cars that I've already done some drift comparison on and a video on each, I wanted to come up with a better way to compare them. So I thought of going down the Top Gear route. So I'm creating my own test track. I'm going to put the rubber tyres on these micro cars and I'm going to send them around the track and I'm going to test them against each other, not in racing, purely against the clock, and I'm going to compare how they do. And with that comparison, it'll tell you which is good, which is bad, which you should buy and which you shouldn't. And with the idea of having a small test track, any other 1/43 or smaller car, maybe even 1/24 might fit on here. Any other micro sized car I can put on the track, I can test, I can time it against the clock, and I can compare it against these three and hopefully come up with a Top Gear style leaderboard. So that is the plan. Let me just show you there. Nice big chunk of wood. Now what I have here, I'll come a little bit closer. So what I have here is the plans that I've been working on for the last 2 days to come up with a track layout that I'm happy with. This has gone through 5 or 6, maybe 7 iterations before I've come out with a layout I'm happy with. So with this layout, I've planned in the option to have 3 separate tracks. So you can see the main track going around. I've also added in this 90-degree corner leading into this 90-degree corner, and then I've got an oval. So I've got 3 separate tracks. So we can have the International, the Clubman, and the Oval. I'm still trying to come up with a name for it. Amped Raceway, I don't know, I just don't like the sound of it. But anyway, I'm hoping to turn this into reality. So I've drawn this up in 1/10 scale and I'm hoping it is perfectly to scale. Granted, there's going to be a percentage of tolerance, but I'm hoping to create this in full scale. So just to give you a better idea, you've got your start grid, obviously, you've got your start finish line. I'm going to be starting all the cars from back here with a camera set up on the start line so I can record all the laps. So you go down the start finish straight, start the lap, into the big sweeper, into the chicane, down into the lightning bolt, and then through the fast right into a 90-degree right and down the straight. Right, so here we have the basis of our track. As you can see here, we've got our 8x4 sheet. I've given it a couple of coats of grey. I've massively underestimated the amount of paint I had, so I had to go out and buy another tester pot. I am using tester pots for this because it should be big enough. I've gone through 1 1/3, and there may even be another coat coming depending on whether I like the finish. It's not completely grey as you would expect. There is a couple of lighter and darker tones which I like because it makes it look like different types of asphalt like you'd get on a normal track, but it is a bit patchy. I've also ran this trim around the edge from some spare wood I had, and I've routed the corners over just so it's nice and, well, just so it's not sharp on the fingers. And if we were to lift it, it gives you somewhere to hold on to. I'm just going to give the car a quick run round because I want to test how tight it is. I've shown you the track layout I come up with, but I want to make sure the car can actually do this tighter turn here around the chicane. If it can't, I may have to redesign the track. So I just want to give this a quick test around to see how tight it can turn. If it can't turn tight, new track design. I've already put the grippy rubber tyres on, so we'll see how this goes. So this sheet does seem about the right size for this type of car. So, I do just need to get it trimmed a bit better. So the trim might be slightly off because the sheet is bent over a very small bench. So what it might be good idea to do is just to put 2 bits of wood underneath just to stabilize it. There we go. So I've put 2 longer bits of wood underneath it just to stabilize the length so it's not bowing, so it doesn't mess with the trim. So the idea is the car goes down, turns around the big sweeper, comes, then you've got a tight, yeah. That's then not going to make the cut back, is it? No. That's annoying. Then another big sweeper down here. Oof. These grippy tyres means this thing can turn really tight, but it can't turn tight enough. Oh, can't turn tight enough just to get that chicane. Right. So just can't turn tight enough to get a chicane. Yeah, not the chicane I was designing anyway. Right.
A few moments later.
So it is a little bit annoying that I can't run this design of track that I wanted to. So I've taken some time away. I've had a quick think and I've come up with a new track design that should still prove challenging to driver and car. So it still should be a good test, but it should allow the cars to get around. So it's a slight redesign, and here it is. So it's very similar to the Barcelona, Catalunya track. So you've got your main start straight here with your start finish. You've got big sweeper for corner 1, and then you've got a 90-degree right-hander for corner 2, into a 45 left, into a 45 left, another, well, I say 45, it's probably about 30 degree. So 30 degree left, 30 degree left, 30 degree left, into then a quick 30 and 40, 45 and 90 right, and then into another 90 right down the straight. We'll see if that will work. I've also added in a length of track here for an oval, and then a little 90 degree here, potentially as a third track, just to see if the car will make it round. So yeah, that is the current Amped Raceway naming coming that I've thought of. So what I have done as well is I've created a little bit of a guide to help me mark out the track. So you see you've got 2 holes in there. One side is roughly 20 mil from the edge. The idea is that when I run this along the side, that first pencil will always be 20 mil away from whatever corner just to give it a little bit of leeway between the car and the track, especially coming through the last 90-degree on this corner. You're going to want to take it as fast as you can with as much runoff as you can. Now, the bit of wood I've put down here, I'm going to take an idea from the Canadian Grand Prix in F1, and I'm going to call this down here the Wall of Champions. I am going to name every corner and bit of track just for fun. So we've got the Wall of Champions, and then I'll come back with some names afterwards. So with the 2 holes, I've got 2 China graph pencils. The idea is you push one in one side, one in the other, like that, and then essentially you run it along the track and around. As soon as you lift up and the pencils start making contact, you can then mark the track. And it should work out quite nicely. The idea is that the white will always be the outside of the track, the yellow will be the inside, and then I'll mark it out with masking tape and paint the white lines properly. And I've made it 250mm from point to point. The idea is that you should be able to fit 4 cars with a gap, if I've marked that out correctly. So there's 2 cars, that's 3 cars, 4 cars with a gap. There you go. So it gives a nice wide track for racing lines, and if you're to have more than 1 car on it, you should be able to run 2 or 3 side by side without much issue. 4, you're probably going to be pushing it. So that's the idea. So that BMW had grippy tyres on. This Merc has got drift tyres. Might just run the drift tyres around just to see what it's like. Well, that's a brilliant test. I did wonder whether the paint I'd put down would be a bit too grippy for these drift tyres. Now, if you don't get it to drift, it does understeer like mad because they're just plastic tyres. But once you get the back end out with a little bit of power, then yeah, it'll drift quite nicely. And this one, because it's got the hard body as well, just takes a little bit of battering, a bit better against the wood. And the great thing is it hits the wood and bounces off, and it doesn't fall and break. So, fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to get back to trying to design and mark this track out, so watch this space. So just to give you a quick view of where we're at with our little micro track. So I've got the track all planned out and painted. I just need to start laying the masking tape down for some of the track lines. So come watch the hyperlapse of this one. Right, so here we are on the start line of the Amp Darcy Raceway. Let me give you a full lap preview of how this track's going to work. So you can see the cars all lined up. They're going to set off down the start-finish straight, across the start-finish line, straight into a big sweeping right-hander, into another sweeping right-hander, down into a 90-degree right, into a very short 30-ish degree left, into another left, left again, down into a quick right, and then to another sweeping right-hander. And then as you come into the last corner here, it's a perfect 90-degree right-hander, trying not to cut that curb, and down into the finish straight. And so there you see the track and some of the cars laid out behind me, all ready to go. Now it's taken a couple of days and I'm so stressed over it, I've lost my hair. But I've finally done it with a couple of different layouts, as you can see. Now, unfortunately, with where this video is going, you're not actually going to see me use this track because, and this is where honesty comes in, and as I've said with the channel, I will always be completely honest. This hasn't worked out exactly how I'd planned. So, although it's an 8x4 sheet of plywood, and the cars are grippy and they drift quite well and they drive quite well, it's still, even though I've made some of the corners as sweeping as they can be, it's still too tight for these little cars. And it's really annoying because, well, the whole video was about micro cars, micro track, and yeah, so it's almost been a waste of time. I mean, you get to watch this video and then take the mick out of me, but the track's not going to work. It's okay. So we've got all three cars set up on the track here. It is in a little pull-off area, and they are marked out in the way I rated them as drift cars. So we've got the Jai Baylor, or the most wanted BMW first, we've got the LDRC Merc second, and we've got the H-Star Porsche 911 GT3 RS first. So we're going to test them out as like little race cars, little touring cars, and I'm going to show you why this track hasn't really worked out, talk you through some of the problems, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to stay off camera for the time being, purely because the main thing you want to see is the track and the cars. So you'll hear my terrible voice and you'll probably see me crash a lot. Right, so let's start off with the Jai Baylor. So this has got 3 throttle settings, 20, 50 and 100%. I'm going to leave it at 100% on this. Now, one of the problems with this little car is every time you turn it off and on, it loses its steering trim. So let me just set it up going straight there, and you'll see as soon as I pull the trigger, it'll veer off to the left. Every time. Every time. And it's really annoying. So one of the major downsides of this car that I don't like. It's also quite loud, but it's quick. Now this, for its scale, is quite twitchy, but I'm also a terrible driver. So it's quite twitchy. You can see I've added some curbs on because when using this track, I kept cutting the corners. So I wanted to put some curbs out, stop the corner cutting. One problem you'll get with this car that I don't like is when you go into fast corners, let me try that again without crashing. If you go into a fast corner and you turn, it understeers, then the front wheels grip, and then it oversteers and turns really tight. And so it's very unpredictable trying to take this first and second corner fast. I mean, to be fair, this little thing does go around the track quite well. It takes the corners fairly decently. You just got to get used to its twitchiness. And at the moment, I'm driving terrible. Oops, damn, sorry H-Star. Oops, right. I'm gonna park this up and we're going on to the next one. So I'm gonna park this up. Just there. Okay, so on to the next one, the LDRC, the Merc GTR. So this has got 2 throttle settings. I don't know what percentage they are. This is probably 20%, and then you get full power at 100%, but it's very slow, very boring. So boom, 100%, here we are. And it is fairly quick. I'd hazard a guess to say it's quicker than the Jibala. And it, to be fair, it's quite quick, but you have to be very careful on the throttle. The steering is incredibly direct, incredibly twitchy. Oops. And I've hit the H-Star again. But yeah, on this painted surface, let me just get... It is very grippy, this little car. And it's probably down to it, even though it's a 1/43rd scale, really a car no bigger than your hand, or the palm of your hand, it's got 4-wheel independent suspension, wishbones and everything. And so it handles really well. The scale of the track isn't an issue because it's got a really tight turning circle. In fact, you see, I'm turning in too early on every corner because of that turning circle. So this scale of track isn't an issue for the LDRC. Right, I'm going to park it up because there isn't really much bad to say about it. And I'm going to park it up. I'm going to park it up just there. Right, now on to the H-Star. Right, so this was the best car in the drifting. I really liked this H-Star. It was a cracking car to drive. Well, cracking car to drift. So, let's go. So this does have a low and high power mode, but for some reason, whenever I press the button, nothing happens. So whatever mode it's in now is the mode it's in. And straight away you might see it's definitely not that quick. Not compared to the other two. And then one problem you have is the turning circle. So see how big that is? So what that means is, I'll show you, when I come round here, I turn in about here, and it doesn't follow the track. So let me go a bit quicker. Ooh. Yeah, so it doesn't actually follow the main track layout, it follows the secondary layout. Turn the gyro off because it's a bit twitchy when you're trying to use it as an actual touring car. And you might just be able to hear as well a lot of scraping. So I'm going to keep quiet for a minute, see if you can hear it. So I'll do that again. In fact, it understeered there, and that's the problem I'm having with it. The understeer. There. Yeah, that understeer. So because of the design of the chassis, and I'm going to show you in a minute, when you turn in on power, or at least carrying some form of speed, the suspension depresses and the bottom of the chassis catches on the track, And so it understeers, and then you lose your steering. And that is why it was going into the barrier, because it can't carry the speed. So I'm gonna put this there as a rating. So it was the best drift car out of them, although it was very close. But as like a little race car, a little touring car, it's not the best. It's quite obviously the worst, purely because of the chassis design, and I will show you that. The little JB certainly makes up for its lack of drifting ability and lack of gyro to be a really good little race car. It's very predictable, as long as you don't push it too hard and you don't induce the understeer oversteer problem. It's very capable for what it is. If you had a load of friends you all had the Jai-Bailers, you'll probably really enjoy it, because if you can get a bigger track, you'd probably have some fun, because everyone would have the same problem, and yeah, you'd have great fun. The Aldi RC, the blue Merc, to me, that is by miles the best car. So one of the reasons this is a really good race car is because, as you can see there, it's got 4-wheel wishbone suspension. It's fully independent. And it just means it handles really well. So when I show you the bottom of the chassis, you might just be able to see there that nothing sticks out on the bottom of the chassis past the wheels. Yes, you've got the diff cases that are slightly pronounced, but they're rounded off so they don't catch. So whenever the wheels depress, nothing sticks out past those wheels. I'll show you on both sides. Nothing sticks out past those wheels. So it still grips and it still drives. Unfortunately on the H-Star, just to show you the difference, these little bits in the middle where the suspension is, and the little pins just there, so when you depress the wheel, that little bar across here sits level with the wheel, and especially on the front, when you pull them down, it sits out past the wheel, so you actually lose your steering, which is why you were hearing it scrape. And it's a terrible design, it really is. Obviously when you're drifting you don't notice it because you're not forcing much weight transfer onto the wheels, but when you're going fast and you're turning, and because it's a die-cast body, all the weight transfers, and just to accentuate it a bit more, as it does that and the wheel compresses, as you might be able to see there, the wheel isn't in contact with the track, so it turns what was a great car into a terrible race car. It really does, and it's a shame. So as a race car, it's this is brilliant. I mean, the Jai-Baler down there as well as a race car is very good, but the H-Star just not very good as a race car, which is a real surprise. So that's the end of the video, and it hasn't really gone the way I was hoping it would. It's been a bit of a letdown and a bit of waste of time and a waste of money. But the good thing about the video is we've tested these cars as drift cars, we've tested them as race cars, and we've got completely different results from both tests. Actually testing them as you would in real world. And now, one thing I've noticed from other YouTubers is they rave about some of these little cars, but they don't test them in real world situations. So the reason I wanted to build this track is so I could go through like a Top Gear test. So you could drift it, see how it handles like that, then you put it on the track and you time it, and you can directly compare them based on the timings. Unfortunately, I rather underestimated a few of these little cars, and this is just too tight. But that's not the end. Well, it's the end of this video, but it's not the end of this track. This will live on as something else. I can reuse the wood, but I'm not stopping the idea of having my own indoor mini track to test these things. I'm still going to look into building a little mini track, so whenever I get a mini car, a 1/43rd scale car, I can test it and I can directly compare it against the competitors. Because again, a lot of YouTubers, they don't directly compare these things. They'll do them as a single video and they'll either say it's great or it's crap, and then it doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things because nothing's been compared. And that's what I want to do. I want to start comparing things because you get a better idea of what's good, what's bad, and so on. So I'm still looking into how I can build a little track. It may not be here, it may be somewhere else, but I'm going to look at seeing how I can build my own indoor track. And then we can directly compare these and a few of the competitors. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching what has been a bit of a letdown video. It is what it is. I'm still putting the video out there because even though it's been a letdown, there's still some information to take from this. There's still positives, so there we are. Got to take the positives. If you like the video I've done, I don't, but if you've enjoyed it and you can have a laugh at me, that's fine. Here for the entertainment, then give me a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you get notified whenever I put a video out. If you want to drop a comment down below, tell me what you think of the track in general, whether I've wasted my time, whether you've got any 1/43rd scale cars to recommend that you can put up against these. And then when I do finally get a track sorted, we can have a proper shootout and I can have a proper Top Gear style board with all the times on. So yeah, anyway, bit of a letdown in this one, but thanks for watching. I would say stay amped, but with the deflated nature of this video, it's going to be difficult. See you in the next one.